Hello everyone. I'm just making this video because I don't want to keep typing this out under every post that Eric Adams puts out and every post where people say Eric Adams is the only savior of New York at the moment and Sliwa doesn't have a chance. I want to start because Eric Adams has zero credibility. His entire campaign is based on the premise that he is going to undo all the damage that he did the past 4 years. He is still in office and has the power to make changes, and he's not using it. We apparently have to wait until he gets voted in a second time to find out everything that he's going to do to fix the mess that he made. He has no credibility behind him as a platform to run on. In fact, Eric Adams is currently overseeing the largest exodus in NYPD history. And another very important thing that people forget is that Eric Adams is responsible for the vaccine mandate here in New York. And for those who are unaware, Eric Adams' Executive Order 62, which mandated private and public sector workers take the vaccine at the threat of losing their job, contained an automatic exemption carved out for actors, athletes, performers, and anyone who, quote, makes money for the city. You see, in order to facilitate New York City's post-COVID-19 economic recovery, Eric Adams knew that every stadium had to be filled and every Broadway show needed to be sold out. If they mandated that everybody take the vaccine, they knew you were not going to go watch a ball game where your MVP is sitting out, and they knew you weren't going to go to a Broadway show where the lead is not going to perform because he's not vaccinated and is not allowed to. But they knew that you would take a vaccine to go watch your unvaccinated performers and athletes do their thing. So there is a case filed by 16 New York City sanitation workers. It's called Garvey et al. Versus New York City. We won this case. We declared New York City's vaccine mandate arbitrary and capricious based on Eric Adams' Executive Order 62, which exempted celebrities from the vaccine mandate. We won this case back in October of 2022 and were ordered back to work in November of 2022. So we're not back at work yet because Eric Adams has dragged the appeals and stays on this case for nearly 3 years. A year ago, we went into oral arguments, and the city has no case. But Eric Adams refuses to drop the appeals against us. The smartest thing Eric Adams could do is drop the appeals against us, because that would be the first level of credibility he could actually run on. He could say that, well, it was a mistake, and here we're going to right it. But he won't. He won't do it. He won't drop the appeals against us. But what does that mean for you? Well, religious exemptions don't exist in New York State anymore. If you are not aware of that, you are now. A Western New York court overturned an Amish case in favor of vaccine mandates, and as of now, religious exemptions, and as of now, there are no more religious exemptions in New York. So, Garvey et al. Is a case that basically says that your bodily, religious, and moral autonomy can't be predicated on your tax bracket. Eric Adams wants the court to overturn a case that says that your bodily, religious, and moral autonomy can't be predicated on your tax bracket. So not only is he refusing to drop the appeals against a very obviously unlawful case and situation, because it's his vaccine mandate. He did this. He put Order 62 out there. Nobody else is responsible for that. He executed it. He allowed a vaccine mandate to go out that exempted strippers and basketball players, but mandated blue-collar city workers. And Eric Adams wants the courts to overturn this case. And it has been dragged out for nearly 4 years now. If you really think that Eric Adams is the savior of New York, I'm guessing that you didn't support the vaccine mandates. Well, the least that you could do is demand Eric Adams drop the appeals in this case, and to reinstate, compensate, and vindicate the city workers that he fired under a vaccine mandate that exempted strippers and basketball players. He doesn't want to do that. Well, why would you vote him in? There is only Curtis Sliwa and Jim Walden are the only two candidates that that openly would reinstate us and drop the appeals against us. Eric Adams and Zoran Mamdani both support vaccine mandates and terminating employees for not following them. If you haven't watched Zoran Mamdani's short but very informative interview on the Finest Unfiltered podcast, I will post it down below. Zoran Mamdani is well aware that Order 62, Eric Adams' Executive Order 62, exempted strippers and basketball players, got blue-collar union workers fired from their jobs without due process, and forced hundreds of thousands of workers to take a vaccine that they didn't want and against their religious or moral autonomy and beliefs. So how different is Zoran Mamdani and Eric Adams? Not that much. Eric Adams is overseeing an exodus of NYPD and doing nothing to fix it. Okay, so what's the difference with defund the police and that? And that's what Mamdani will do too. There's no difference there. They both support vaccine mandates. They both support the migrants. Eric Adams just agreed to give, two things. He agreed to give $41 million to the legal funds for migrants. That's coming out of the taxpayer money. And they just renewed the contracts, I believe it's for about $1 billion, for housing them in the hotels. You really think Eric Adams is going to save this city? Well, listen, Eric Adams is still in office. If he is very serious about turning over a new leaf, then the very first thing that should be demanded of him is to stop fighting unvaccinated city workers fired under his executive order that exempted strippers and basketball players. And if he's not willing to do that, then I don't know why you guys would vote him in, because he's still in office. He's still in office. He can still create executive orders, and he can still perform his mayoral duties. And Eric Adams can go to the city's law office and say, withdraw the appeals on Garvey et al. Versus New York City, reinstate, compensate, and vindicate the city workers that were fired under his unlawful vaccine mandate. And if he does something like that, what can we say? He'll shut us all up. Everybody he would add to his credibility significantly, because we now know that vaccine mandates can't happen again, because our case, upheld, is a roadblock to that. If you believe that Eric Adams is the savior of New York City after 4 years of doing nothing but destroy this place, then the least that you could do is in the next 5 months demand something of him to show that he is capable of changing, to show that he's willing to turn over a new leaf. And the best way to do that is drop the appeals against the city workers fired for refusing to comply with his vaccine mandate.